I first discovered Napalm Death probably July, August 1985 at a local pub, the Mermaid on the Stratford Road. I'd heard about the hardcore concerts that were taking place there on Fridays and Saturdays. So I took a visit up there one day, and Napalm Death were supporting some other artists. Liked very much what I saw a flyer that they were playing the following week. I think there was like an instant attraction to Napalm's sound. It's different to what they're doing now, and certainly different to what they were doing when I joined and started collaborating in the writing of the material. They were a three-piece outfit: drums, bass, guitar, bass player singing as well, and that comprised of Justin Broderick guitar, Nick Bullen bass vocals, and Ant Miles, also known as Rat, on drums. They had a more hardcore, anarcho-crass style sound with influences from Chaos UK, Disorder, Amoebics, Crass, Joy Division, certain bass lines, even certain beats. Very Joy Division influence, I would say so, definitely. Nick very much likes his Joy Division. It was purely a passion for music, wanting to get behind the kit and play with some like-minded individuals that wanted to play heavy, extreme music, and I think me, Justin and Nick all shared that concept. Nick was a lyricist, and I guess he took his lyrics from various political points, social points.
Yeah, I mean, Napalm Death's political lyrics were like pretty entwined with the band. It's a bit of a throwback to their prehistory before Scum, you know, coming from the anarcho-punk scene. Napalm Death's vocal style was unique and pretty groundbreaking. That goes without saying, really. If you follow the the independent music scene before Scum, it was the grindcore growl that Nick Bullen sort of invented, and it was kind of a follow-on from the hardcore punk bands that predated them, but it was much more extreme. It was it came to define grindcore, you know, that vocal style, and they pretty much encapsulated it on that album.
I mean, you know, the fact that their music, their lyrics are actually about something was kind of like a breath of fresh air at the time, you know, because there's nothing wrong with the standard metal lyrical concepts of singing about either Dungeons and Dragons or horror or war, all those things. There's a place for that, but with Napalm the songs were about real things, about real lives, and about real political ideas, and all.
I'm an artist who works a lot with text, and one of the things that helped me think about the way text is used or the way language is used was the kind of vocal style that Napalm Death developed, and particularly that you hear kind of developing through the course of the record Scum. At a certain point, language ceases to function, like it ceases to be able to communicate in a normal kind of way. Like when you have kind of a whole group of kind of messages which are kind of competing against each other and a kind of almost interchangeable kind of set of systems of beliefs, that kind of saying something in its own right doesn't really actually affect any change. And I think I was really interested in this kind of passage in Napalm Death, and the use of the vocals from meaning in a normal kind of sense to something which was kind of a lot deeper and basically more primal. Like it was a way of using language to express something kind of like emotional and political, but doing by stepping outside of the normal kind of rules.
Basically, me and Justin became friends, I'd say, around about November of that year, November '85. We were both drinking at a local pub, the Barrel Organ, and which was a sort of indie, punk, psychobilly hangout on weekends. He just come to me the one night and just told me that they're having problems with the drummer. I asked why, what the problems were. He said, they wanted to get a bit more metallic influences in the band, possibly play faster. He knew that I like to play the drums fairly fast. I was playing in a local hardcore band called Earache, and he asked what I thought about joining, to which I said yes please, I'd love to try out for that, which I did. Me and Justin rehearsed in my bedroom at home, my parents' house, while my mother was at work, and after several rehearsals I had the songs down. After hearing these songs enough times from seeing them at the Mermaid on endless occasions, sort of half knew the songs anyway, so to get behind the drums and play them and just add a little bit more heaviness, faster, it worked out. This is where I fucking grew up. This is where me and Justin rehearsed. My first ever rehearsals took place in this house, so with Napalm.
Okay.
If you want to come and have a little look while the folks are out, not a problem.
Cool.
Slightly different decor, no posters anymore. The place used to be full of posters, but this was it, this was the room. Quite a good view actually of Kings Norton and South Birmingham, Licky Hills, Franklin Beaches, but yeah, somewhere in here. I think the bed was there, the little Premier jazz drum kit, little amplifier, stereo system, records, posters, top to bottom, and yeah, it's where we did it. It's where we had our first few rehearsals until we actually got together as a three-piece, me, Nick and Justin, to do it as a band. This is where we did it as a pair, just for me to learn the songs, everything that I've been hearing while watching them at the Mermaid. Then we got together as a complete outfit, me, Justin and Nick, in an actual rehearsal room. I would have thought that happened around January of 1986, about 3 weeks prior to my first concert with Napalm Death, which was the 18th of January 1986 at the Mermaid, supporting Amoebics. Quite a big audience, quite a big band to support. Maybe I was nervous, maybe not, can't remember. Just remember we did it. It went down really well with the audience. It was a new, refreshed, I think, Napalm Death, faster, heavier, and that was it, no turning back. Back in the early days, let's say in 86, we were doing the odd gig here and there, Sheffield, Mansfield, Nottingham, Birmingham. We were the resident Mermaid act, as I mentioned earlier. So no, there were no tours then. Daz Russell, the local promoter, who used to put all the hardcore gigs on, all the punk and hardcore gigs, he'd have his little chair or stool, whatever there, his table for collecting, maybe some fanzines, some demos to sell from bands. Up the stairs, turn to the left, and you had the function room, which had a very small stage, half a foot. The place held about 400 people, and on some of the hardcore matinees, as they used to be called, on a Saturday, it'd start at midday and wouldn't finish till 11, and he'd cram anything up to 24 artists, from Chaos UK to Amoebics, Antisect, Conflict, and Napalm were lucky that we got to play with some of those bigger bands that we probably used to watch as kids, and down the road at Digby Civic Hall. So yeah, this is the venue.
What was the atmosphere like in there when you guys were playing back in the day?
Always a good buzz, friendly people, a lot of people drinking local scrumpy, a lot of the crusts, the hardcores, they'd come with their little tubs, including Nick, who enjoyed a good tot or two. It was friendly in there, never no fighting, never a bad atmosphere. The Mermaid was run by an Asian family, and I think their policy was, you respect us and we'll respect you. Never saw a fight in there. There never was any fighting. People come to hear music, to get up, have a pogo, have a mosh, just listen to some good music basically. It was just a good, friendly meeting place where you could get on stage and do your thing and we certainly did that on more than probably 100 occasions. So we'll go in and I'd stopped coming here probably 87, sorry, early 87, as I was getting the new Napalm together with new members and started to rehearse for the B-side of Scum. Yeah, that's it. Gone, boarded up. So no, there were no tours then. So Justin left October of 86, Nick left March of 87, Lee joined, Bill joined, and Jimmy Whiteley joined, which that became the B-side of Scum, which we recorded in April of 1987. Richbridge Studios, Ali, where we recorded the A and the B-side of Scum, first Napalm Death album. Still got the smell that I remember. I hadn't been here since probably 1988. So no, nothing's changed. Reception, snack bar, rehearsal rooms, studio upstairs, dance studio. No, that's changed at all. Definitely changed. They've got a lot more stuff in here. A couple of leather settees, but it has moved around. But yeah, we used to come in here just so we could play loud.
The session engineer was a fellow called Mike Ivory, who's obviously been with us since. And I was his apprentice. I was coming in nights after college, in between day jobs, and just literally sitting through night after night of complete sessions, because that's what he did. He did nighttime sessions.
They were the cheaper sessions.
So like from whatever it was, from 6 o'clock in the evening till about 4 in the morning, we'd come in and do a session, and it'd be half an album later, or in your case a whole album later probably.
Yeah.
That's how it used to go back then.
Well, I've known Napalm Death since pretty much as they started. I mean, when they were really young, and they're like teens, you know. The incarnation of the band before they even made Scum, probably 2 years before they made Scum. I actually promoted a show in Nottingham, and Napalm Death are one of my favourite bands, and I got them to play along with it was a who's who of all the hardcore punk bands at the time: Subhumans, Amoebics, Disorder, Chaos UK, and opening the show was Napalm Death. So I've sort of kept tabs with them, Nick and Justin, prior to them recording the A-side of Scum, and it seemed natural that I'd obviously see them when they got more and more famous in their own local area, and I think they felt at ease with me, and I felt at ease with them. When it became time for them to actually make a record, even though they recorded the actual A-side of the album and couldn't get a record label to put it out, and I hadn't quite started my label, as soon as I had started my label, it was like the most natural thing that Earache would be the one to release it, because I knew them for years.
They've influenced thousands of bands. You can hear the influence of what they do in so much music that's around now. But I don't think anybody, maybe only a couple of bands spring to mind that have ever really captured the energy and the aggression of the early Napalm Death stuff. You can listen to Scum now, it's still 20 years old, and it still sounds fucking brutal. It still sounds like it's still quite a terrifying record. It's got a very bleak sound to it. And although it's like with the early black metal stuff, it sounds as bad as it does production-wise, not because people wanted it to sound like that, but because they were doing it on a budget of 20p. And Scum was recorded incredibly cheaply as well, and you can tell, but that's given it a kind of magical feel to it. It's got a really bleak and brutal sound, and it's quite sparse. There's a lot of space, even when they're blasting away. It's almost like a wash of sound, rather than like the stuff today where it's all triggered drums and overproduced and polished sound. It's got a rawness that I guess comes from the punk scene, from the Discharge and GBH influences, and you add that to the death metal side of things, and it's something quite unique. I don't think anyone's ever come close to reproducing that sound, really.
Justin, I think, was hoping for a little bit more activity with Napalm after recording this, what became the A-side of Scum. and a label didn't come forward straight away like we'd hoped. As I said, Core Records showed some interest, so did Pussmort Records in America. It sort of fell apart. Justin was looking for a band that was going to tour, was going to get some press, was going to do something. He didn't just want to be this Mermaid band that just played the Mermaid and just became a demo band. Nothing happened. He was looking for... success isn't really the right word, but just he wanted to get out there and do something. He had a hunger, and he got the offer to play moving from guitar to drums for a local band called Heather David, who signed to Blast First Records, got produced by Steve Albini from Big Black, who came over to produce that particular record. Heather David had been around since early mid 80s, different lineup, slightly different sound, and just one thing led to another. They were coming and watching Napalm. They loved the Napalm sound, and if you have a look at the credits for the A-side of Scum, it's actually got Heather David down as production. I wouldn't really say that they produced, but they were there. There was a lot of people there. They were there, and maybe they voiced their opinion. This up or that down, blah blah blah, and we were just good friends basically. We liked Heather David's sound, and they really liked the Napalm sound. They come along to the recording session, and Justin ended up playing drums for Heather David. He left.
Nick Bullen and Justin Broadrick drove the band in their very, very formative stages when they were not really a band, more a collective. Mick Harris came out on drums as the third member of the band, and it was those three who recorded Side A. Then Justin got offered a job with Heather David, and he was a big fan of Heather David and decided, I'd rather go and join them and play drums than carry on with this project. Nick Bullen got fed up and bored without Justin and felt that the music anyway was starting to drift in a different direction, more towards, shall we say, metal. So it's left to Mick Harris, the drummer and the last member of the band to join from Side A, to carry the whole thing on. I wondered at this day why he did it, and I suspect the reason was momentum. Mick actually saw a potential in what Napalm Death were doing and really drove it forward. And give the guy credit, drummers are normally regarded as people who drive behind a kit but have no driving mentality to take things forward with the band. But I think he had a vision, and that vision became Scum, and then from Enslavement to Obliteration, which are two of the most important albums of the late 80s in British music. I think it's also worth pointing out that the thrash scene at the time across the world was massive, but Britain had no credibility in the thrash scene, strangely. What we did have there was a band taking things a little further from a much more DIY direction, i.e. Napalm and what they did. And sometimes people forget when they talk about the importance and influence of British metal in the mid to late 80s that Napalm Death was there and changing history, turning it on its head.
That was October 86, so that left me and Nick. Found a guitarist, a local friend, Frank Healy, Cerebral Fix, Sacrilege, Benediction, still playing in Benediction, real nice guy. Didn't quite work out with Frank. It's a shame that he never made it to record the B-side of Scum. I can't really remember why he went, why he left. It didn't work. His style, he just didn't cut it for what I had written and the way Napalm was going. I think, can't say he struggled, but he had his style of playing, and it just didn't work. He did several gigs, it didn't work. Jimmy had come in on bass after Nick departing.
Why did Nick leave?
Nick's head just wasn't there. Nick was at university spending all his money on alcohol, I have to be honest here, and he was turning up to rehearsals extremely drunk and really falling about the floor. He just wasn't interested, and as much as I got to be honest in saying it, this is what happened. I had to approach him the one day at one rehearsal where there was me there, Nick was there, just vocals then. We were just having Nick on vocals because Jim had joined on bass and Frank on guitar. And I remember having to say to Nick, look, you just don't seem to be into this no more. You're turning up really drunk late. You know, do you want to do it or not? And I remember he just walked out of rehearsal. That's the last I saw of Nick until he joined Scorn. And The lineup for the B-side, as you know, it was splintered. We had Bill Steer in Liverpool, the Wirral. We had Lee in Coventry, and the two nearest from Kingston Autumn would have been me and Jim. So even though we all knew each other and it all worked well, we only got together to record the B-side. We got together for one rehearsal, which was the evening prior to going into the studio. All of Napalm's rehearsals came from probably the gigging. That's how it got tight.
They rehearsed at the Mermaid.
Yes, to be honest. I went to Bill's in Liverpool, the Wirral. Bill had only just left school, was about to start university, and his parents were a little bit reluctant to Bill coming to Birmingham by himself, and he said, well, Mick, yes, I'd love to join Napalm, but could you come to Liverpool to rehearse? My parents don't want me coming to Birmingham. So I said, that's not a problem. So I trundled down to Liverpool with my little book of songs that I'd written. Bill living in quite a big house, got his own floor in this house with his own rehearsal room, because he'd already got Carcass. So he'd got the drums in there, bass amp, guitar amp. So just me and Bill jammed for 2 separate days to get these songs as tight as we possibly could. Still own the tape recording from those sessions. Bill was just a natural. He was tight. I loved his tone. As I say, it was a dirtier tone because of the down tuning. It just worked. It was perfect. He had it down. He then came to Birmingham to have this one rehearsal, probably about 2 weeks later, after me and him meeting up and jamming at his place, he came and the four of us got together. And even Lee didn't practice the lyrics on the eve of the recording, because it was still being worked. Well, where do I put the lyrics? Lee was cued in on the B-side of Scum. Lee was cued in to every song. Now, every song he was cued in, and I shared some vocals as well on that, on that recording. And again, it was an evening session.